Shake here with a follow-up episode of Blaster Throwback. Of course, again, this is the second episode, and like in the first, I do want to mention it is inspired by Walcom in his Tag-Back series that he does. But I'm doing it with my own personal taste and my picks. And what we're going to do this time is a couple of older Busby blasters that you may not know of, even. These are noise-making, dart-blasting revolvers. One firing, total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, while the other holds 6. Come from 2 totally different years, separated by 6 years apart, and I actually find them to be quite fun. Quite neat. I didn't know anything about them, even being a Busby fan, so they're new to me. One of these, of course, is the Busby Thunderbolt. This is the older of the two. It was actually released, around 2008, and it actually has a firing sound. As simple as that. Has a little light strip here that lights up when you fire it, and it is a top prime and fire, and it makes a noise every time you pull the trigger. There is no on and off switch, so if you don't want the sound, you have to pull the batteries out. But it is not, the batteries don't relate to the power in any way, shape, or form. It's spring-powered, revolving cylinder blaster. Very neat thing. I actually stumbled across this on eBay and just couldn't resist. I had to get this thing. It's a very neat little blaster that I don't know how I never knew about it. It's just, it was probably during my airsoft and paintball times that I played a lot more. Even my wife and I, we got into airsoft, and I kind of moved away from there for a short period of time and then came back. But this here was actually around 2008. Neat blaster. If you see one, pick it up. There's not a whole lot of necessarily modding potential because, again, it has the heavy dart posts that are thick and they have the air vent through them, so they'll actually tear up most modern darts unless you go in and cut out the air post or the dart post, and you would have to actually brass or use CPVC or other barrel material because this has slotted cuts in the cylinders. So in each one of the barrels you'd have to actually brass everything in there, which I kind of would be tempted on this one. Just for the heck of, it'd be fun to do and show up to a Nerf war with that. That would be hilarious, because everybody would hear it every time you fire it. Something about the goofiness of that just gets me. I love it. I didn't buy it to modify. I bought it to use as a collector's piece because I like rare, unusual, unique Busby stuff, because there's a lot of Nerf collectors out there, but very few of us Busby collectors, and I'm definitely one of those. But I got this to add to the collection. Think it's really cool. I might do a brassing job on the cylinder because this one has just a normal orange cylinder. The next one does not. One that I wouldn't modify for any reason, any shape or form, is the Sonic 6. This actually came out 6 years later. It was actually released around 2014 according to Busby's copyrights and patents. And this one actually has a translucent cylinder. That's why I wouldn't brass this, because I just wouldn't want to. If I could find some thin-walled clear plastic sleeves that I could put in, because it does have the slots in the sides of each barrel, which would prevent it from holding an air seal. And of course it has the larger dart post as well. They did that all the way up till quite recently. This is a 2014, so we're only talking about 5 years ago. And this one still had that. It wasn't until they introduced their new Air Warriors line that it actually, like say with the Sentinel and the Champion and the Reaper, that they moved away from that. So still a little bit on the older side, but 5 years in the terms of today's blaster age, that's kind of old. They're almost like technology. Moves, something's a year old, it's old news. But this one does have an on and off switch, so you can use it. And I believe this one does have an air restrictor because it doesn't have the dry firing sound. You actually can, I haven't tore this apart and I don't ever plan to. This is a collector's piece only. But you can use it without the sound, or you can actually light it up, and this thing has a little bit more advanced sound to it. It does have the little like phaser sound and lights flashing when you fire it, and that's quite neat. I'm going to actually have to cut it and go over here on the workbench with the lights off so you can see these two blasters working. But also, when you prime it, it charges up and it sits there flashing until you fire it. Pretty cool. But I will cut over here to show you just these things working as they're supposed to with less light. So here we go. Okay, so I have all but one light in my workshop turned off, and had to turn off about 5 or 6 lights. So here we go. I'm going to show you first, again, the Thunderbolt. Now, it just works basically on the trigger pull. So if you ever see one, that's what it does. It just has a light strip that acts like it's firing some sort of a phaser, I guess. But it's kind of neat. It just has like a little orb running across. And it makes a noise on every trigger pull. Again, you have to take the batteries out to get rid of it. The Sonic 6 does have a switch, so you have to turn it on. And it does the same thing. Lights up every time and stays on for a few seconds, and then goes off. Pretty cool. And then again, I'll let that power down. When you prime it, it charges up, and then it'll flash for quite a while until you fire it. And then it holds, and off it goes. But that is 2 pretty neat little blasters that I wanted to showcase on this episode of Blaster Throwback. That, just for me personally, I like the goofiness of them, I like the uniqueness of them. And while Nerf has kind of redone this here more recently with their Star Wars line, with the noises and the lights upon firing or priming, these did it, years ago in some cases. Like, this is now an 11-year-old blaster, while this is 5 years old. This one especially, it did this before anybody, well, I can't say before anybody else, but it did it in a way that was neat and fun. Before the modern time today of overpriced blasters just because they have a licensed design from a movie company. I'm sure the Star Wars franchise is well loved by millions. I know that, and some people might love those blasters just because they have that on them. They might like the coolness of those. But these kind of get it from me because there's not a lot of things out there on them. But again, this is Mongoose Jake showcasing a couple of blasters from the past, from Busby, that had lights and sounds and are almost forgotten to history already. So hopefully this kind of brings you back around to where if you see them now for sale or in a thrift store, you might know what you're looking at. And why not pick them up just as a collector's item? That's what I did. I got them each for a few dollars, and well worth it. Well worth it personally. But I hope you enjoyed this. Again, this is Mongoose Jake with Blaster Throwback, and this is only one more episode in the series with more to come. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.